Hello everyone. I'm really excited to bring you the very first vlog from my 1970 something Honda CT70 micro chopper. It is weird, it is funky, and it has been on the back burner for so long that it actually predates this YouTube channel. But today I'm showing it some love and we're going to build some foot controls using stuff that I've got lying around in the shop. This little bike is already pretty ridiculous as is, so I thought the seating position should reflect that. I call this one the squatty potty. Yeah, that's a little crass, but you know, cracks a smile, which is exactly what I want to do with this bike. All right, guys, so here's the plan. What I want to do is use some 5/8 inch rod and turn it down so that when it's all assembled, it should look like one continuous piece of material. This is going to be the actual foot peg itself, 5/8 inch rod. We're going to turn down a flat section and then turn down again a threaded section on the end. On this flat, we're going to take another piece of that same rod, bore it through, and that goes over this and can spin freely. Finally, a third piece of rod that's drilled and tapped for the same thread. This all gets screwed together, and then our actual brake and shift levers are going to get welded onto that ring. We're going to make the pegs out of this stuff. It's just 5/8 inch steel rod, mild steel, pretty normal stuff. I've got a bunch of it laying around in the shop, and a piece like this is pretty much perfect for making our foot peg. Now this is my little Harbor Freight lathe. If you're an American, I really wouldn't recommend this thing because for your money, you could get a used machine that far outweighs this thing in capabilities. But it will cut steel if you go slowly and you don't anticipate the finish being anything fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and use what I got. Okay, and then do that one more time. You end up with a pair of foot pegs. Now we'll move on to the ring that fits over this flat section. I didn't really record a whole lot of this part. It's pretty straightforward. Drill a big hole, cut it off, and then repeat. With the foot pegs and the rings complete, we're going to move on to the third section, and that is what the foot pegs mount to. I'm going to use this bolt here as the main anchor point for the foot pegs on both sides. It is the top motor mount and is probably one of the strongest points on the bike. And then, at least on the shifter side, I'm going to reuse these two threaded holes to keep the foot pegs from rotating. I'm going to bend a piece of the 5/8 inch rod into a 90-degree corner so that it runs parallel with the body of the bike, and then we'll use a plate to actually bolt it to the bike. All right, here's a weird one. You watch me just drill and tap this for an M8 by 125, which is the same thread that I did here, and yet something's not going on here. Now you might at first think, I probably cut these threads incorrectly, but that's not true because I didn't cut them on the lathe. I used a die. And you can see M8 by 1.25 right there, which is exactly what this tap is as well. Thing is, I went and grabbed another M8 by 125 tap, and they're not the same. In fact, this is an M10, which is weird because I ordered this one from McMaster Carr, so I don't really understand why it's misprinted like that. Anyway, that's fine because I'm going to trim this up anyhow, right there. I just, I wanted to do this for test fitting purposes to see how much I wanted to cut off. So we lucked out. Moral of the story there is don't be disappointed if you got to do things twice. Oh, much better. By the way, this is 1/2-inch steel rod, and this is going to be the shifter and brake pedals themselves. So these are all the parts and pieces that I've made so far. Got our 2 pegs, 1 shifter peg, the spacer for the brake pedal, and then here are our mounts. You can see the shifter side. So that moves up and down like that. I still need to make the bracket that will connect eventually to the actual shift shaft itself. But I want to get both of these on the bike before I get into that stuff. I left this long here. I haven't quite decided exactly how I'm going to finish this piece off. I think I'm going to do like a very minimal chain guard, not because I need a chain guard, but because it gives a decent excuse as to why I'm using these conveniently placed bolts. You can see I put this 30-degree angle into this mount. I've left this long. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to cut this yet. The idea being that this plate is going to fit like this. I'm going to have a hole right here for the same engine mount bolt over here, and then there's going to be another convenient mounting spot right down here. So that's all going to get welded in like this. I'm going to do the same machining here. Also, you might have spotted I got a little porosity in this weld. I think it's just a little bit of leftover oil from the machining of this part. If you see porosity in your weld, just stop, because you're going to have to grind it out anyway. That will get redone at some point. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, where I'll touch off on the top, go down that 120, and then carve out this area. I'm thinking I might freehand this part that's at an angle, but with how much it's sticking out of there, I might have to put it in the vise in a different way. We'll see how it goes. Wouldn't exactly call that a precision job, but I think it worked out. I don't think I recorded that by accident, but I drilled a hole. Congratulations to me. So I have the rod and the plate pretty much good to go. And they're kind of mocked up here with some magnets. Cleaned very thoroughly with some acetone so I don't run into that issue with the weld getting all contaminated and full of pores. Put a tack in on the back side here and see how it fits. And another one over here just for some strength. That fits pretty good. So here is going to be my brake pedal. I've pretty much done the exact same thing that I did with the other one, except that I'm going to put like a pad, I think, over here. So the foot pegs themselves are built and mounted on both sides. Now comes the actual hard part, which is connecting them to the shift shaft and the brake on the other side. I don't think it's going to be too hard. I do have this little shift linkage from an old project that I think was a Honda, so this might actually just bolt right on. Let's find out. Okay, we got to do something about this old foot peg, but it would be a shame to lose the kickstand, so hang on. I don't know why I didn't put this thing in the lift table, but I'm like crawling around on the ground here. It's like I'm past that. I shouldn't be lying on the ground working on this shit. Okay. That's better. Take that off. This one on. Does it fit? Hey, if you hit it with a hammer and it goes on, then it fits, right? That's how that works. Okay, this is gonna be easy. I'm talking to you because it's easier than talking to the camera. But like, I just have to make a little lever thing off the back of this lever and then connect it to this other thing. Simple. So this is the same piece that I made the plates on the foot controls out of. This is going to be the other end of the shifter lever. So I'll straighten this up, clean it up, get it welded on. A little shaping with a belt sander, and I think we're about ready to tack it on and see how she fares. With that piece welded in, we screw this back on. And then this goes in. Now you'll notice this has a female end, and this is a solid rod that's drilled and tapped, so this is just lying around the shop from one of the other bikes. I'm eventually going to replace this with one like this that is male threaded. Anyway, the trick here is we're just going to make it roughly the same angle. And we're going to cut, drill, and tap a new hole on this guy right around here. Okay. And I'm going to do that on the lathe. Fortunately, this one is reverse threaded, so we can tap conventionally on the other side. So here you can see I have drilled and tapped the end of that rod that I cut. I'm just going to cut the head off of this crappy ass old bolt, and that's going to serve as the go-between between the female thread here and the female thread in my little slip joint, whatever you call it. You can see that I'm bottoming out on both the heim joint. That's the word for them, heim joint. I'm bottoming out on the heim joint and in the threaded hole I put in here. That's fine. This is just temporary, so we can kind of demonstrate that this works. And then when I get the correct piece in, it'll all work fine. All right, so that gets screwed in like that. This comes down, goes in there. Gets screwed on here. Normally the jam nut goes on the back side of that. And, oh yeah. Okay, let me try using feet. gonna have to wiggle this guy back and forth. I mean, I'll tell you what, it works. Kind of fucking awkward, honestly. It works. Now I get to go home and eat dinner, and tomorrow we will sort out the other side. All right, it's the next day and I had dinner, and word of advice is don't go working on bikes when you're hungry, because then you're just gonna rush through stuff to get home and eat. Now we're gonna turn this around, get to the brake side. Okay, so you can see we have our lever and our mount. Again, this isn't fully seated right now, so it moves around a little bit. But I have this 6mm threaded rod. It's quite long. And it is connected to our brake arm down here. Normally, something like this would be only partially threaded here at the end, but I don't have the ability to make that myself on the little lathe that I have. So we're going with some threaded rod, and we'll make it work. Now I could do, like on the other side, the most straightforward thing, which would just be an arm sticking up here, connected to that, and when you pull it, it does the brakes. But I want to make it a little more interesting than that. I pulled this out of the scrap bin, some solid rod bent into kind of a U shape, and my plan here is to actually run it underneath so that it comes up on the inside here. And when that foot pedal is depressed, this is going to rotate like that, thus pulling on this. It'll make sense as I go. So one of the first things that I'm going to do is determine exactly where this brake rod is going to sit relative to the rest of the bike. Where I have it here, I think sits nicely with the top of this frame and a couple of the other lines that we have going on. So I think it looks pretty good right here. But what's bugging me is the top of the brake mount. It's hanging down a little too far in the front here, and I'd like to level this out. So in order to do that, I'm going to remove a little material over here where it's contacting this little mount thing. I think this was part of the exhaust mount or something, I'm not sure. But I'm going to use an end mill like you've seen me do a couple times before. I'm going to cut into the side of this material just to swing the whole thing back a little bit, level that out. There's a time for perfection, and that time is not right now. But I think I have the brake pedal mount in the right angle. It looks fine like that. In fact, the only thing that's really bugging me right now is the Kickstarter. But I'm probably going to make my own Kickstarter anyway. To space the arm up off of the mount, I'm going to put this little piece of square rod in between. Well, this took a little while to contrive. I gotta be honest, as glamorous as it is to sit there staring at your bike thinking about the next step, this is probably where most of your time should be spent, is just making sure that everything lines up the way you need it to. Oh shit. This is backwards. Hang on. Okay, where was I? This is now in the correct orientation. So I'm going to go ahead and tack weld it, and then I'm probably going to double check that it's the correct orientation. Okay. Oh, my camera didn't record me welding this up. I'm really kind of getting a little tired of this camera. But I did the one side and tested it on the bike and it looks good. So now you can watch me at least fill in the other end. I want like a good, oh, not quite there. A little too much. Yeah, I think that's about right. Not just yet. But, okay. So, this is going to sit like this. It's so nice when you don't actually have to hold the camera yourself.
It's like the hardest part, filming yourself, is doing two jobs.
So essentially, this is going to go through this guy. I'm going to cut it right here and then drill and tap it so that this one, like this thing, will actually rotate. So as like the person presses the pedal, see what I'm saying? Like it'll pull this thing. So let's say I want to cut it like here. So this was a tricky tap job. I had to use this kind of crappy T-handle in order to clear the brake lever itself. You can see would not have been able to do that with the typical tap wrench. So what I ended up doing was getting another heim joint. This gets snugged down like so. And then we'll run our brake rod right in there. Everything back together. I'm just going to put this brake pedal roughly where it's going to sit when not pressed. And we'll go a little long. We can always adjust on either end if need be. Okay, got it trimmed down, and then finally, the nice little detail, I've got this extremely thin wall aluminum tubing. That should perfectly slide in there. Screw this guy into place. Eventually this will get Loctited and jam nut and all of that. But for now, let's see how it fits. Let's see if it works. So the last thing you just saw was me finishing up this brake pedal assembly. What I didn't know at the time though was that the brake drum in the back had no lining on the shoes. So I had to replace those. All right, that ought to do it. I've done that, and now I get to find out if my brakes actually work. All right, we can move back and forth. You see that? Huh. Yeah, I'd say that that works pretty good. Not too shabby, huh? Well, I think that's it for now. These will get shined up with the rest of the bike when it's time for finishing work. I'm happy, and I hope you're happy too. If you made it this far into the video, perhaps you'd like to see this thing finished. If so, you know what to do. I'm not your mother. If you have questions or comments, stick them down below and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you later.